Now.
No, yeah. Excellent. Good evening. I want to welcome you to the City of Walker Planning Commission meeting for December 17. First item after calling the meeting to order is review the minutes. We've got minutes from the December 3 meeting. It's been distributed to the commissioners. Commissioners, any comments, corrections?
I move to adopt.
Support.
Okay, motion by Rob, supported by Elena to approve the minutes for the December 3, 2025 as submitted. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next item here is general public comment. Now we've got two public hearings here, and there'll be an opportunity for you to speak on, ask questions, provide commentary on each of those projects when they come up. But this is an opportunity over and above that. If you have something you want to share with the city, a concern you have, idea, this is an opportunity to share that with us as a planning commission and see where it might go. Any takers? No takers, all right. So now we'll move in the first agenda item. This is public hearing 25-018. And we'll have Paula Preby, the city planner, introduce the project, and we'll go forward from there.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So this is a project, so I'm just going to situate everyone here. First, we are on the northeast side of town, here off Alpine around Center, in this shopping complex back here. And so there we are, and just so you know which part of the building we're talking about here. So the applicant here is Dan McConnon from All In Pickleball Gym. They've submitted for special land use approval, looking to use this currently vacant big box tenant space in the Greenridge Square Shopping Center as a pickleball gym. That's a commercial recreation use, so it's a special land use and needs review by the commission. The site is zoned CPUD. The use is permitted in that zone district with the special land use. So my report includes all of the kind of an overview of how the special land use process works. It comes to the board for additional review, and the standards for approval of a special land use are in the packet, and I encourage the board to consider those as they deliberate. A few considerations for the board looking at this. It's an all interior use, so there's not much from a site perspective. But I just wanted to note a few things. One is parking and pedestrian access. Commercial recreation uses don't require a lot of parking. This very large space requires 38 parking spaces according to our zoning ordinance. They have plenty of parking. Kind of this immediately across from their entrance parking area has over 100 spaces in it. I think there's ample parking here on site. They do, as you can see here, a striped crosswalk to the entry, so they propose adding that. That's not on site today. I think this will be an important element to make sure there's safe access for the pickleball players to get in and out of the building across that drive aisle. And the next consideration for the board regards hours and entry. I encourage you to discuss this with the applicant because they've used this in their other facilities, but they do like a key code access for their members ways to play pickleball in their gym. I did reach out to the police chief regarding that, because that's the type of thing that sometimes they have concerns over, and he said they don't have any concerns about the entry procedure, but that they'll work with the applicant to get an emergency access code for police and fire if when they open, but that there are no concerns from them regarding that. And I recommend approval, and I don't have any conditions for you. Really, that's about all that I've got for you. We also have, so this is what their new entrance would look like. Currently, there is not, I pulled it up here to show you. So currently, there is no entrance door here. There are doors there, but there's no large entrance like you see for these other businesses. And so a new one will be added for the business. And you can see here roughly what that will look like. So nice new entrance so people know where to go in. They have a floor plan here. You can see, I believe there's 11 pickleball courts and some amenities for members and users, you know, restrooms, locker rooms, that sort of thing. And so here is that front entry. And I'm happy to discuss it further, answer questions, but that's all that I've prepared for you on this one.
All right, thanks, Paula. Commissioners, any comments, questions? Rob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paula, you mentioned future potential gym workout equipment, recovery tools, low-volume food and alcohol sales, and other subsequent opportunities. If, for example, the applicant down the road wants to propose alcohol, is that something that would have to come back to the Planning Commission, or are we, by authorizing this, we would be authorizing the consumption or the sale of alcohol?
That would need to go to the city commission, actually.
Okay, but it would be subject to a review at some point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Good, thank you.
Yep, through the local city commission and then the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. So really, the state is more involved in that than we are locally.
Okay.
All right. And generally, we have Scott Connors, the city engineer, commenting on this. This is an existing building. The parking and access around that is separate again from this particular project, with the exception of the crosswalk and the new entry.
I can just briefly state that I spoke with Scott about this case, and he didn't have any comments. I asked him if he wanted to prepare a report, and he said this is a zoning issue.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, as you stated, the parking, the building, the utilities, all of that's already in place and was reviewed before this building was constructed.
Excellent. Thank you. At this point, we'd have the applicant come forward. Please give us your name and address and share with us your plan.
Yeah, hi. My name is Dan McConnon. I am the founder and owner of All In Pickleball Gym. We currently have 2 locations, one in Byron Center and one in Cedar Springs. So we've been in operation in Byron Center since April of 2023, and we're just hitting our 1-year mark at our Cedar Springs location. So I live at 220 Quimby, so in the Creston neighborhood in Grand Rapids, so right off of Plainfield and Quimby there. And so I'm here today to ask for approval for the site plan that Paula had brought up. So in regards to our hours, we typically are 4 a.m. to midnight. We look for 24-hour access. So every reservation is a unique reservation, so they get a unique key code each time. So it's a 4-digit code with pound. The way this is designed too is that they will gain entry to the vestibule first, so they won't be outside, right? They'll be able to go into the vestibule space controlled, and then you need to have that code, and they're allowed 25 minutes before the reservation. So that gives us a little bit of transit time between groups. So in terms of the safety component. Like you said, the existing doors are all the emergency doors, which we have in the layout in terms of the egress plan. So we will be adding restrooms and the entry, since this used to be a larger suite that was split up with Ollie's, right? So they took all the existing amenities. So this space needs all the additional amenities that are in that layout. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Questions?
Since 2023, when you opened the Byron Center location, what have you learned from that, and did you apply anything different for this Walker location?
Yeah, sure. In terms of our building selection, so we look for We're not currently in the state of building new, and so making sure we find spaces that have ample parking, that make it easy for clients as well as the existing infrastructure nearby. This building has 27-foot ceilings, so that's fantastic in terms of what we need in terms of the use space. The building columns are huge, so from a player safety, we can make as big as courts as possible. So that allows players to play athletically, not running into fences, hurting themselves in different way. As I know many have said, pickleball causes a lot of injuries. But that won't be the case in terms of tight constraints in terms of court construction in that regard. We use an outdoor surface inside, which works extremely well and it's durable, so that's good for folks. Having the different restrooms and things, that just works. So, and we have a big set of community space, and so what works for us too is making sure we have amenities for parties, for birthdays, different things that you might see, as well as big tournament events that draw tourists in as well to come play pickleball at the different levels. So what we've learned is making sure there's enough community space, really good ample parking, general safety for our players, both inside and out the building. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Rob?
Do you have staff on site all the time, or in the middle of the night, people just come in and use the facility and leave without anyone there?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the way we've designed this for ourselves is I can actually manage the entire operation from my phone. So each of our locations has a full BMS tool. So I see the temperature, I have cameras all over, I can unlock and lock the door. We even actually have a video screen program where I can do video remote customer service with a person in terms of video chatting with a panel in each of the buildings. So for us as a business, while pickleball is booming, we do not staff every single hour we have, but in terms of on-site, but we are staffed in terms of a control center so that if anyone needs help at a location, they can centralize, get help. And so that allows us to kind of maintain some leanness and keep our prices at a good rate and services for our customers. So there's always someone that can help if they need it. And we make it a point with signage and things to make sure they know how to get that help.
Okay.
So we also, just from a safety perspective too, I mean, we have defibrillators, right? Full first aid, instructions, ice pack. So all that's accessible without having to go into a closed room that a staff member would need to go to, right? And we're also sensitive to making sure the fire extinguishers pop out exactly where they should with the fire marshal. So all those things are things we've taken into account. We make those things very prominent so players can see that. So it's a great question.
You stated that your hours would be 4 a.m. to midnight.
That's our typical. We would like the flexibility to be 24/7. Sometimes we do overnight events, and those are staffed typically. So imagine back in high school, we did a lock-in type situation. We just held a Guinness World Record event that went overnight. So at our bar and center, so we staffed during that, and we allowed some play in hours we normally wouldn't do. But correct, we typically operate 4 to midnight.
Not likely then that midnight to 4 a.m. it's going to be available for somebody to punch in and play.
It's very rare we see people want that, and so we choose to not exercise those hours from an energy consumption operation pretty typically. If someone specifically asked us to have those hours, we'd open it up for them, and we'd probably staff it because of that reason, depending. So when I say we don't staff, I'm really talking about our fringe hours, right? So I don't have someone there from 4 to 8 a.m. I typically don't have someone there from 10 to midnight. So, but again, we have someone on call if something's needed always.
One other question. From one of your diagrams here, it shows like an upper mezzanine area, and that is available by steps, stairs. Will there be a lift involved regarding handicapped or anything like that?
So transparently, that's a design that we contemplated. Our first location has a mezzanine, and we've typically used that for closed viewing. We do live streaming events and different things. So we have a lift in there because anything we do up there, we would have equal an opportunity on the lower level. So we would not exclude any ADA requirements in terms of the upper versus the lower. So that mezzanine is conceptually there for us to figure out how it could work. and it may also come out of the plan. It is not essential to our plan.
And then it's likely, I suppose, that concessions and regardless of alcohol, concessions and all that would be handled downstairs?
That is correct. If we were to do, so we don't have a plan for full food service, but like Paula said, we want the flexibility to be able to do that at a later time. And so all of that would be on main floor if we were to include that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are people allowed to bring in like their own food and beverages into it? And then how do you prevent people from bringing in alcohol to it? I guess is my other question.
So in terms of that, we don't, so there's no alcohol parties or anything. So we understand there's rules and regulations around that. So in terms of food, we are okay with that. Since we don't sell food, we don't restrict what food can come into the space on our end at this point. So if there's a regulation that I'm not aware of that I should be aware of, then I would enforce it as such in terms of food for sure. But at this point, we welcome them to bring, their bananas, their snacks. If they're there for a long time, they might bring a personal sized pizza, right, to fuel up and do that. So otherwise, we've typically had vending machines with waters, Gatorades type situation, things like that, so they could have that. As we do kind of keep a more automated solution in terms of some of those things.
Very good questions, good, and good information that you're providing in response to those. It's a case here as we consider this application within the scope of the description in the staff report, and I believe in Quala's recommendation as well. It's kind of outlining a wide range of items, and I think a lot of the questions have touched upon that. So from my perspective, I think it's a good use for the location, and makes use of some parking area that probably is going into weed rather than maintaining
They
itself.
they just blacktopped it, so
Okay.
it's fresh and ready for us if we were to move forward.
Yeah, so it's been a long time, if ever, that they've had parking in that particular area. And location-wise, if there's a big flux of people, they're far and away off from Alpine Avenue, which is, I think, a plus as well. And it sounds like you've done your homework. It's a great question as far as what they've learned in the past, especially as they start this up in the greater Grand Rapids area.
Open the public hearing.
Okay, good thing, good point.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll support.
Thank you.
Okay, motion by Elena, supported by Jacob to open the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Anybody that would want to step forward and offer any comments or questions on this project? Okay,
Motion to close public hearing.
okay, motion by Jacob,
Support.
supported by Pat to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, anybody have any other issues or are ready to offer a motion?
This is one of the fastest growing sports there is right now. It's very popular, and there are some injuries from this. I'm 88 years old. I can get hurt doing that. And if you're going to have alcohol, that's not a good combination either. But no, it's very popular. It's caught on in our family. We've got a tennis court, and they've changed the lines, and everybody's having a good time with that. It's a good thing to have. I'm all for it.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Sounds good, Rob?
Okay. Case 25-018, 555 Center Drive Northwest, special land use. Based on the application material provided, I make a motion to approve the special land use for all-in pickleball gym at 555 Center Drive Northwest to permit an indoor commercial recreation use in the CPUD district in accordance with the application received 11/14/25, subject to the following conditions and based upon the findings of fact noted below. I have no additional conditions. Findings of fact, the establishment, maintenance, location, and operation of the indoor commercial recreation use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public. The indoor commercial recreation use is compatible with the intent of the zoning district and will not change the essential character of the surrounding area. The indoor commercial recreation use will not be injurious to the use or enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes permitted, will not substantially diminish or impair property values within the area, and will not result in any significant adverse impact on the natural environment. The establishment, maintenance, location, and operation of the indoor commercial recreation use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses permitted in that district. Adequate utilities, access road, drainage, and other necessary services or facilities have been provided such that the indoor commercial recreation use will not place demands on public services or facilities in excess of capacity, and the indoor commercial recreation use will, in all other respects, conform to the applicable regulations of the zoning district in which it is located, conditions imposed on approval, and all other applicable provisions of law, ordinance, or statute. And I just had one question for Paula. We don't have to make reference to the walkway because that's already in the plan? Okay.
I'll support.
Okay, motion by Rob, supported by Jacob, to approve the application as submitted. If there's no questions, call the vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Walker area. Okay, we have the second public hearing, 25-020. Again, Paula Preby, city planner, introducing the project.
Thank you, Chair. Let's fly across town here and see if we can situate ourselves for this next case. Located across Walker here.
Whew, long way, I'm getting tired.
Yep, you zoom out far enough and it feels real close. So here we are, this is the property in question. This is 1292 Wilson Avenue Southwest. The applicant, Mr. Wayne Bleyenberg of Tri-State Calf Products, submitted this application for special land use approval for an unlisted use. Staff are describing this, when we have an unlisted use, I try to describe it as specifically and narrowly as possible so that, another use that's similar doesn't just fall into the same thing. So we have chosen to describe livestock nutrition distribution operation, which is a mouthful, but it's trying to be specific here. The applicant describes it as an agricultural warehouse. The site is zoned AA agricultural, and I've got it pulled up here. So you can see it's surrounded by other AA property. There's also single-family residential in the area, and some institutional uses which are permitted in the AA, like schools and churches. So I am, let's see if there is, okay, we're gonna leave that up for now. So this is a use not listed. That means we're in, the use table of the zoning ordinance doesn't include this use. There's nothing that's a close analog to what this use is that would fall directly under. And our zoning ordinance provides for that in a section, sorry, here, I copied it in the report in its entirety. This is section 505, uses not listed. And it says that the planning director, that is my role currently, has the authority to determine that a use not listed above is similar in character and intensity to the uses permitted in a given district, and therefore refer it to the Planning Commission for potential special land use approval. In determining the intensity of the uses, the planning director shall determine it's consistent with the uses permitted in the district in terms of noise, odor, dust, vibration, number of people likely to gather on site, traffic generation, scale, massing, impact on natural features, views from nearby properties. And so I'm just going to walk through a little bit of that. The site is zoned AA, so we're looking at other uses permitted in the district, such as farms, mineral mining operations, and institutional uses like I just mentioned. So in my review, this use has no impact or less impact than other AA uses on many items in the list, such as noise, odor, dust, vibration, massing, and impact on natural features. The operations are primarily indoors within a building of comparable size to a small agricultural barn. According to the applicant, the use has no on-site retail component, so the likely number of people likely to gather on site is limited to employees and residents. There is a residential property on site as well. Traffic and views from nearby properties are of some small concern, mostly from the semi-trucks turning on and off Wilson to the site, in proximity to those other institutional uses like the school, and that Wilson is just a busy road. So this concern, but is shared by other AA permitted uses such as farms with farm equipment or mineral mines with the heavy trucks that use those sites. So it's my determination this use is comparable to other AA uses, thus fits the standard for special land use as a use not listed. So that's a little bit of just zoning detail there. If it's not a clear fit to the other uses, where does it belong? I do believe this use belongs in the AA. But now it comes to special land use review, and this case came to the board in a bit of an unusual way. It's an existing operating business, and it's been there for some time. This initially came to city staff as a code enforcement case regarding a traffic accident with a semi-truck and a personal vehicle. And then digging into that, there's a variance from 2003, which approved the construction of a large accessory building for agricultural use for cattle feed storage, though cattle were not present on the property. And that case discussed the use, the storage of cattle feed on the site for use off-site. And it specifically said there, no retail resale out of the facility was allowed at the time. But this commercial use is larger than a standard home-based business as defined in section 606 of the zoning ordinance. I put that in the report as well. So in Walker, there are 3 different designations for a business you would run out of your home. The first is telecommuting. If you work outside the home but do your job from inside your home via technology, there's not really a lot of oversight needed for that. You're just doing your job from your house. Home occupations are small businesses where there might be some to and from. This might be like a one-chair hair salon, someone who does, and I've seen nail salons out of homes, counseling businesses, those sorts of things. People might do accounting and have a small office where one person at a time might come in by appointment. There's some regulations on that. The bigger one from a zoning perspective is a home-based business where there might be employees that live on and off site or off site. You might have more than 1 or 2 students for like a music lesson. You might have bigger groups, those sorts of things. So there are more regulations for home-based businesses because they are more likely to have impact outside of your property. So they might negatively impact neighbors if lots of vehicles are coming at the same time to and from your house. It's a residential area not designed for that type of use. And so there's oversight there to ensure that the use isn't negatively impacting neighbors. This is an agriculturally zoned property. It's not in a residential subdivision with small lots and lots of homes, tightly close together. It is on a busy road, but there's traffic. It is a road where trucks are permitted to go. And so we just need to be thoughtful about the oversight and regulation of the use. So you can see here the regulations for home-based businesses. There are a few things here where staff has determined that the use in place here is not exactly a home-based business. For one is regarding deliveries to and from. The home-based business permits U.S. Postal Service, private delivery companies, and 2-axle vehicles. So large semi-truck tractor trailers are more than a 2-axle vehicle. There's also regulations regarding expansion of the footprint of the existing facility for the business, which permits no more than a 10% expansion. In this case, there are 2 large pole buildings on site. You can see them here, these larger green buildings. And I wanted specifically to pull this up this way so I can kind of show us around the site. You can see there's a large access here off of Wilson and room for trucks. There is a drive here. This is a little bit of a loop. There you can see the loop to get around. So on the plan submitted by the applicant, I pulled up here the truck turning template. This originally came because of a health and safety issue regarding the large vehicles. So as you can see here, the applicant worked with an engineer, some upgrades to the site, including stormwater detention, a dumpster enclosure, screening of there's some exterior storage like a fuel tank. Those things will all get improved and screened and handled with the oversight that this process provides and the upgrades the applicant will make. And then they're demonstrating here that trucks can safely maneuver on their property on Wilson, which was staff's initial concern. And so here we are with a special land use review. When staff were working with the applicant on a resolution to this code enforcement concern, we ended up here at the direction of the city attorney that the special land use permit seems to be the best way forward. As part of the application, as I said, a site plan was prepared showing the buildings on the property and the space for large vehicles. These improvements will bring the site further into compliance with city standards for commercial uses, the truck turning template, which I already mentioned, to move those movements off of busy Wilson Avenue and improve safety for folks traveling by and using the other nearby properties. So I recommend approval of the special land use. This is an unusual one. I'm happy to answer questions from the board. I do have one recommended condition of approval, and that is if there are any future physical expansions of the business on the property, those should be approved in accordance with section 18.08 of the zoning ordinance. That's the site plan review section. So if it's a small expansion that could be administratively approved, that would be the correct avenue. If it's a large expansion that would require it to come to the Planning Commission, it would need to come to the Planning Commission for review. That's important to get in there because farms and certain agricultural uses are permitted to build new farm and agricultural related buildings without city oversight and site plan review. And so as this in city staff's determination is a commercial use, not an agricultural, like a farm use, we believe that oversight is required. And so that is the condition that staff are recommending. And I know I threw a lot at you here, so if you have questions or want me to go through any of that again, I am happy to.
I think you did a beautiful job about that. I don't think you've ever milked a lot of cows, though. No, you described that very well. And one of the biggest problems, I think, for the neighbors around there is the trucking and is it moving enough to get in and out of the lot there. I think that's the only question I have about that.
To that end, did Scott Connors, our city engineer, have any comments on this? He didn't give us a written report.
Similar to the first case, he did have all the plans and he and I discussed the case. Once again, he said he doesn't have enough comments to warrant a report on this. The applicant came in for site plan review and we discussed the plans, specifically, making sure that truck turning template is there and shows all of that. And Scott said all of this was an improvement to what's there now.
Okay, thank you. Rob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have just a few. Paula, am I correct that if there was a cow on this property, we wouldn't be here?
Not exactly. The applicant is present or representatives of the applicant that can speak more to the specifics of the use. Currently, it's believed that it's a kind of wholesale type operation, I believe. I might be misspeaking here, so please correct me. They get different types of feed and mix them into different formulations and then distribute them to other farms that do have cattle, is my understanding of the use. And so there are different ways that the determination of what an agricultural use is made. And by some of them, a single animal could be sufficient, I believe, but this is not my area of expertise. But in others, that combining and then like off-site usage, it's not all combining for on-site animals, it's for off-site kind of resale, not retail on-site, but off-site wholesale. It can be classified as a commercial use, not an agricultural use.
So if we would we have to condition it to no on-site retail, or because the application references that, is that an unnecessary condition, I guess, if that's important to the commission?
If it's important to the board to include, you absolutely can. That is a requirement, that is in the 2003 variance approval, that there is no on-site retail. And so I believe that that's already in place and enforceable, but if the commission is concerned about that, you're
It might be belt and suspenders, but it doesn't hurt anything.
sure.
And then finally, and this isn't really relevant to, but this theoretically you could have approved as similar. And then what I was reading in the packet is it said that the planning director can make that call, and if you don't call it correctly from the applicant's standpoint, it could be appealed to the planning commission. But I'm assuming that you thought, well, this is unique enough, I'm just going to lateral it to the planning commission. Is that accurate?
Essentially, I made the determination that it does fall in that use not listed, that it is a good fit in the AA district, and therefore the next step would be special land use approval by the board.
Okay.
If I had determined that it was a different type of use and they disagreed, they could appeal my determination to the board. If you agreed, then it would come to you for special land use. So we, two routes to the same place.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments or questions of Paula? Okay, thank you. And now turn to the applicant. If you could give us your name and address and
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Leslie Abdu. Can you hear me okay? Move it down. Yep. My name is Leslie Abdu. I'm an attorney. I represent the applicant Wayne Bleyenberg and Tri-State Calf Products. I'm here on his behalf, as is Paul Henderson, the engineer who prepared the site plan from Rosine and Associates. So we're here to present the application on behalf of Mr. Bleyenberg. Just preliminary, I did want to address Commissioner Verheulen's question. There are cattle on the property, but they are unrelated to the commercial use. They're for private use, as I believe the planning director is on the property as well. So there are farm animals on the property unrelated. And I think planning director did accurately describe the nature of that relationship with the use. The only caveat to that I would say is there is no mixing going on. The building is solely used for an agricultural storage. There's no mixing facility. I believe there's been some question of whether there was mixing or if it was operating as a feed mill. Neither is the case. The building is solely used as an agricultural storage facility for cattle feed. So what happens is usually there'll be one delivery per day of cattle feed that is stored in that barn structure that the Zoning Board of Appeals approved back in 2003. And then that feed is then distributed to off-site farms throughout the state of Michigan. So hopefully that answers your question. If you had any additional follow-up to that, I'm happy to address it.
I do, but
Absolutely, yep.
it's a good time.
yeah.
I'm just, in my head, I'm trying to think of the difference between, when you say no on-site retail, I assume that means I can't drive in and buy
Correct.
the product. But I'm just curious how many are these trucked from this location to farms all over West Michigan?
Yes.
How many farms are, how big of I'll call it a wholesale operation is it? How many customers?
So like I said, they only get one delivery per day on average of items coming on. There are about, I believe, 3 or 4 employees that actually come on the property in the morning, usually around 7:30 in the morning, collect the items and then collect the cattle feed to be distributed throughout the day, and then make their deliveries. And then they return late evening, late afternoon.
So these 3 or 4 employees have a vehicle and they make the deliveries throughout
Correct.
West Michigan?
Correct, and to that point, that means that there's no really activity occurring on the property throughout the day. There may be 1 or 2 employees working in the office space, in the barn area, but there aren't vehicles coming on and off the property throughout the day. It's just one delivery typically of the feed, and then the deliveries being distributed throughout these farms in the morning and then returning in the afternoon.
And those deliveries are not made with semis, I trust?
I don't believe so, no. I think the delivery vehicles, the semi is the delivery of the initial
So
cattle
the
feed.
semi-traffic is basically the delivery to the facility in the
Correct.
morning, and then it's distributed
Correct.
by the 3 or 4 employees in a smaller vehicle heading out.
That's my understanding, yes.
Thank you,
yes.
Counsel.
And just to kind of reiterate what the planning director indicated, and this is a unique case in the sense that the facility's been operating since 2004 without any issues. The zoning board of appeals granted a variance for the construction of the barn on the property to be used for ag uses. The only condition that the zoning board of appeals indicated in that approval, which I believe a copy of the minutes is in your packet this evening, is that the building not be used for any retail sales, which it is not, as we've discussed. So he's allowed to use it for the storage of agricultural equipment, which is what was discussed in the zoning board of appeals minutes of that meeting, and that's been consistent for the past 20 years since he's been operating. And again, as I said, our position is that it's been, he's been operating consistent with that approval. Since then, it's solely being used for an agricultural warehouse, primarily for the storage of this cattle feed. Deliveries occur during regular business hours, typically only receiving 1 delivery per day. Nothing is produced on the property. And as the planning director indicated, this really only became an issue when there was an accident on Wilson. Obviously, Wilson has become a much busier road since 2004 when the operation began. And I know there's actually been some discussion, I think, from MDOT to expand Wilson. I don't know if that's going to happen, but, you know, obviously that's changed substantially in the last 20 years since he began operating. But I did want to comment a bit on the planning director's classification of the use, because it's been our position from the beginning that this is actually permitted as an accessory use on the property. So the property is zoned ag, obviously, which permits agricultural warehouses and storage plants as an accessory use permitted by right without a special land use permit. Our reading of the definition of ag warehouses, it falls squarely within what is being conducted on the property. I believe the definition is lands, buildings, or structures used or designed for the storage of goods which will be sold elsewhere or subsequently transported to another location for sale, including the storage of goods by a distributor or supplier who markets goods for retail sale at other locations. Our position is that is exactly what's occurring on the property. The question has just been whether or not this is considered an accessory use, considering the fact that the principal use of the property is as Mr. Bleyenberg's principal dwelling unit. So, like I said, obviously it's our opinion that the current use is not unlawful, but Mr. Bleyenberg has been willing to work with the city in good faith to try to address any concerns, specifically as it relates to the traffic and the truck deliveries. So that's why we submitted the special land use permit request to try to come to a mutually agreeable resolution to address any future concerns of the city, given Wilson's increased traffic over the course of the last 2 decades or so. It's our position that the use meets all of the requirements under the zoning ordinance for special use permit. I believe in page 54, I think, of your packet, there's a narrative that goes through all of those standards that we've provided to the commission. We do not have any concerns with the proposed condition, being that we come back if there are any proposed expansions of the business. That's not something that I think the applicant is contemplating at this time, but certainly have no concerns with that particular condition. Happy to address any other questions the commission may have. Again, I do have Paul Henderson here as well if there's any questions regarding the site plan. He's probably in a better position to answer those questions than I am, but feel free to
Excuse me. I alluded to something in the history. There was a truck-car accident there. Could you explain that in the past, what happened there?
My understanding is that there was a semi backing out onto Wilson, and there was another vehicle in the early evening, and there was another vehicle or car that got wedged underneath it. And again, I think that issue will be addressed going forward, considering the fact that we have the proposed route plan that would eliminate any need to back out onto Wilson. They'll be able to back out on the property and then exit from Wilson exit to Wilson going forward.
So part of this is you're gonna improve the in and out for the trucks. Okay.
Change the nature in
Good,
which
good.
the trucks are exiting the facility, yes.
I guess one of my questions that I had with exiting and entering the facility, how are you gonna make sure that the trucks do that? Because yes, that happened the one time, but I know not every truck does that, and you're not always gonna have the same driver every time, and stuff is gonna change.
Absolutely, and I totally understand that concern. Typically, when the deliveries are made, obviously this is Mr. Bleyenberg's primary residence as well, so he is there most of the time when deliveries are being made. So he typically will communicate that information to the delivery drivers. Usually it's the same ones, so they get familiar with the property. And we've also offered, in the course of discussing with the city about a potential resolution, we've also offered to put signage out onto the property indicating where to back out and where to turn from. I don't know if that's on the site plan, but again, something that I don't think the applicant would be concerned about.
I think that would be something nice to see, to add some kind of signage from that, just to like make sure that if there are, obviously, people get sick or whatever, drivers change, just that it is aware.
I agree with that. I was going to suggest that. I mean, it would seem to me if there's a safer route, any driver of a semi would not want to back out into Wilson, but again, it might be belt and suspenders, but I think some signage saying, follow the truck route, or do not back into Wilson with a semi. My understanding is that if the planning commission follows the recommendation of our planner, you're comfortable with it, even though you might have a theoretical argument that it wasn't necessary in the first place. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, we technically filed the application under protest to the extent that we had some legal concerns with respect to enforcement.
But if the planning commission does this, you might go to your grave saying, I think I didn't need to do this, but you and your applicant
Our client wants to work with the city, yes.
Good,
So
thank you.
we're trying to improve as much as we can without obviously spending too much money on his behalf, but I don't think signage is something that my client will have a lot of heartburn over.
Good, thank you.
I have one question on the site plan. It looks like the truck turning movement goes over 2 lanes for them to leave. Is that accurate based on the width of Wilson there?
It really depends on which way they're turning.
I know that you have that center lane there to add a little bit more.
Yeah, we didn't
It just-
necessarily cover every movement with this. Scott just asked us to show that, the radiuses were appropriate and the truck could maneuver mostly on site to be able to turn around and head out forward rather than having to back up, so.
Okay, I was just trying to think of when it gets busy there, people are slowed down, or obviously they're going high rates of speed, so them trying to turn out and stuff to make sure they have the right turning movement. Is like your line on Wilson to the left, is that kind of like center line then of the road, or you don't know?
We didn't do a topographic survey of Wilson itself, so where the striping is in Wilson.
I'm just wondering, because that turning movement turning in looks like it's pretty tight backing up into there. The one turning movement, the big loop, is if you could make that radius bigger, almost turning in, that you would have less going over top of other traffic on Wilson.
Talk about exiting going north?
Yeah, it's exiting and going south. No, not that one.
Going south.
Yeah, that one right there. I'm just trying to think from Wilson traffic and stuff like that entrance still seems really tight for them if we don't even know where Wilson is on there with them to make those turns. That's kind of my concern.
The extent of Wilson is accurately shown, I just don't have the lane widths on Wilson.
So is that the total width of Wilson there that you're showing, or just 1.5 lanes of Wilson, or just the one northbound lane? You're talking to a civil engineer here, so.
We did our best to show that from an aerial view of Wilson Avenue. When we were doing our original survey, we weren't aware that was gonna be an issue. So we did our best, based on Regis area
I guess that's kind of my biggest concern right now.
I
is that-
think that's a great concern,
I agree.
and a way for them to deal with that is if the commission's intends to approve this, put a condition on there that the applicant provide us with
I'd be
a
happy to follow up with
representation
Scott.
of where those lanes are within that pavement that's shown
Yeah,
here.
I'd be happy to do that, not a problem.
And I guess I'd be fine with them working with staff to make sure that they can maintain and stay within those Wilson lanes, because obviously there's not a ton of room to go either way, and you have high rates of speeds.
Yeah. Jacob, I haven't heard anything from you.
Do we
yet.
want to open the public hearing first, or?
I think
go through?
this is an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, so if you've got some questions for the applicant.
Oh, no. No, I don't have any offhand right now.
I've got a question or two, and this might be for Paula. On page 1 of the packet, the following, at the bottom of the page, the following improvements are proposed as part of this development. Extended pavement area for truck turning movements. And this is all part of addressing the issue of vehicle safely entering the property and exiting the property. Are these proposals for improvements, is this the city, or is this on behalf of the developer making these improvements?
So my understanding is that the improvements that are mentioned there, was my read on this. I might have gotten that component a little bit wrong on how much is being extended there, but it looked like this, to the north side of the building was being extended a little further for vehicles to come in and turn around. But ultimately, like, as I said, this came to us as a code enforcement issue, and we're trying to resolve the issue that created that safety hazard. And so the specific improvements being suggested, some of them like in order to comply with the requirements of a special land use, certain things need to be met. So some of those, like adding the dumpster enclosure and screening the exterior storage, were staff suggestions to bring the property into compliance where it would meet the requirements for a special land use approval. In others, in terms of, well, we need to get the trucks off site, and how do we do that? Does it fit now, or do we need to expand or change a little bit? Some of that might have come from the engineer and their review of the site.
If I could, Stuart, I do have a comment on that. We're not proposing any pavement for truck movements at all, but as I walked the site with the client, and we were talking about outside storage and the regulations regarding outside storage, that's when he had me add the extra 20 feet of pavement, where the semis shown parked. He had me add that so he could enclose some of because we talked about, some of the things he has out in front, the propane tanks and other things. He said, well, then and I said, that's a regulated activity, outside storage.
Okay.
And Paula specifically asked that we show all those areas, and he said, please add some to my site plan so he doesn't have to come back. So that's the principal reason for that extra pavement.
Thank you.
I've got a couple questions. There's one delivery a day, generally. There may be extenuating circumstances, so you want to have some flexibility there, but it's generally one a day. And the representation made on the graphic here that's on the screen is that it's, a 50-foot trailer?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the typical delivery of first delivery of the wholesale product.
Yes.
Okay. Now the distribution, I'll call the other ones the distribution vehicles. What's their size?
Yeah, Paul, if you could, they're shown on the aerial. You can see there's 2 box trucks parked next to the barn. Those are
He was
the
saying
aerial,
aerial
the,
map view.
The flyover thing.
Google Earth.
Yeah, there.
Those are the trucks, and those trucks get loaded up in the morning and they leave and they're driving all over the state, and then they come back in the afternoon. Those are the trucks.
So you've got 2 box trucks going out,
Yep.
and between the two of them, they make all the deliveries, so they don't come back again during the
No,
day.
that's my understanding, is they load up for the day and they're gone and then come back.
They come back early afternoon, drop off the trucks, and then leave.
Okay. Is this a year-round operation?
I believe so, yes.
So there's no peak time or downtime during the year when those come and go?
Cattle need food
I
year
was gonna
round, so,
say,
yeah.
They need the same amount all year round, so my understanding is there's no change throughout the year. It's not seasonal.
Now, in the statement that was submitted with this, there was reference to agricultural storage of farm equipment, and then the feed.
Yep.
What kind of farm equipment we're talking about?
Oh, there's no, I mean, the only equipment that's stored inside the building is stuff that's needed to store the feed. So like a high-low, pallets, that sort of thing. There's no other, and there's photographs of the inside of the buildings as well in your packets. There's no
Oh,
other equipment.
When
that-
you said farm equipment, that,
If you could constitute a high-low as farm equipment, but
Okay.
there's nothing else stored in there other than the feed and what's needed in order to move and place the feed in the appropriate areas of the
Okay.
facility. Yeah.
all right. The way this has been, the graphic that's been submitted is on the premise, the way I read it, when there's a delivery made, that one-day delivery is made, they're coming into the property and they're maneuvering the way you've shown it. Is that reflective of the way they have actually been maneuvering?
Well, the accident, I think, indicated it did not happen every single time, and that's why we have offered these alternative conditions. Like I said, Mr. Bleyenberg lives on the property. He's there when the deliveries arrive, and can communicate that information to the drivers, and that's why I think, potentially signage or something to that effect would be appropriate to address those concerns.
Given that, would you be adverse if there was a condition that there be no backing into or out of the site for either the delivery vehicles or the distribution vehicles?
You mean on to Wilson?
Yes.
I don't think that would be a concern, no. That's the intention all along, so, yeah.
Or backing into the site from Wilson.
Yeah.
Yes.
Either back
Either
in
way.
or off the
Yep, because even if those smaller vehicles need to be backed in like they are depicted now, they would just do that. They would pull in and then go to the right and then back in that way. I know they're smaller, obviously, so there's no concern in terms of maneuverability there.
Okay.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, the semi-truck template we show is a template that all Scott asked us to do is that a truck could maneuver on and off site without backing on or off of Wilson, so that's
So,
what we're showing.
are you saying that it might not be a 50-foot, or that 50
No,
foot's
sir.
an overstatement?
No, the path that the vehicle takes on site may not be exactly as depicted here.
Okay,
Wayne, my brother was an over-the-road trucker for a while, and it's amazing. This is a template that, we're given, and Wayne said, they could, do it in half the distance we have here, so that's all I wanted to say.
okay,
Still within the confines of not backing out on Wilson,
Yes.
but maybe they would do it in a different manner that's all on site.
okay.
If it's a smaller vehicle, or, because I don't think every single delivery is always those 50-foot. They may be smaller than that. We just depict it in a way to show that it can be done with the largest potential vehicle delivery.
Okay. And if I may, I'm going to offer one commentary on this. What really struck me on this project is the width of that driveway onto Wilson. It's over 50 feet wide. And generally you see at most 39 feet maybe. But this is a wide area here. And I think it's very important that we're going through this discussion so that it's very clear what should or shouldn't do. They've given us a good representation of how to remedy the issue that's come up. But as it's been pointed out by the commissioners here, that's got to be everybody that's involved with the deliveries and the distribution have to be on the same page there in order to maintain that safety.
Would you say that these deliveries are fairly recurring, maybe a small number of vendors that, consistently make the deliveries?
I believe that's the case. In fact, I talked to our client on site, and he mentioned that that one accident was a substitute driver that they don't usually have come in. So, yeah, I think generally it's a consistent personnel that are coming in and off site.
And it seems like that would lead to maybe allowing, some consistency or adherence to some of these directives.
Yep. Yep.
Should I come out, a motion to open the public hearing?
Yes.
Support.
Motion by Tom, supported by Elena to open the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Anyone in the audience that would wish to come forward?
I can probably help clarify some of your trucking questions as I'm a truck driver.
Okay. That's a good perspective to have.
Watching some of that. Theodore Bolthouse from 317 Rolling Green. As I said, I'm a truck driver. I do it every day. And looking at that schematic that you got there, engineering degree, that's plenty of room for that's 53. It's usually 53 footers. I've gone by there a few times, and it's a 53-foot truck with the tractor. If it's got a sleeper, it's about 60 feet long. And to make the turn, even if he's going northbound, there's still plenty of room on the width of that drive to make a complete, almost U-turn, and then back towards where you saw the two straight trucks. And then he would have to pull forward a little bit to get back over to the barn itself so they can unload it. And coming from the north, going south, there's plenty of room for him to swing in there and swing wide enough that he can pull up where they've got that picture where that little drive is. And then he would have to do that. That's where that up towards where those two trucks were, and then he'd have to do, I call it a three-point turn is what I would call it. Pull in, back up, pull forward, and then back up again. So there's plenty of room for him to do that without anybody having to back out of that area at all. I was surprised when they said somebody backed out of there. It's like, whoever made the comment backing onto Wilson, I was sitting there shaking my head. I would never back onto Wilson unless it was 3 o'clock in the morning if I did. But I just wanted to clarify that's plenty of room and everything in there for them to do that. I've been by there a few times and seen a 53-foot truck in there. So, and he's got more than adequate room for the width of the drive. Like you said, I think it said 50 feet. That's quite wide. That's a dream for me, for a truck driver, to have a drive that wide to make a turn like that.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify that for you so you'd understand a little bit more.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to step forward? Okay.
We're here to talk about Popeyes, but we just found out it's been postponed, so.
Oh, no. We're happy you're here anyway.
All right. No other public comment? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to close it.
Motion by Elena.
Support.
Supported by Jacob to close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Yeah, this operation's been going on since 2003, 2004. It seems like they've adhered to the zoning issues that were presented at that time. It seems to be a tidy operation. I don't have any issues with this. I think actually the special land use designation permit will actually clarify that usage, solidify that usage going forward. Seems like a good thing.
Yeah. Anybody offer a motion?
I will if no one else does. I did the last one, but should I do it? It'll be my night? All right. Case number 25-020. Based on the application material provided, I make a motion to approve the special land use for Tri-State Calf Products at 1292 Wilson Avenue Southwest to permit the unlisted use of livestock nutrition distribution operation in the AA Agricultural District in accordance with the application received 11/19/25, subject to the following conditions and based on the findings of fact noted below. Condition 1, future expansion of the business on the property be approved in accordance with Section 18.08 of the Walker zoning ordinance, site plan approval. Secondly, no on-site retail. Thirdly, signed is approved by staff regarding backing in or out of Wilson Avenue. And then fourth, Elena, do you want to help me with your language? Did you have language, or are you comfortable with the in and out access?
I think it's fine.
Okay.
Just maybe like show adequate width for Wilson based on truck turning templates with Scott Connors for staff recommendations.
Or would you like a more accurate depiction of the turning template?
So the turning template is accurate. It's just that they don't depict Wilson with as accurate.
So by accurate depiction of Wilson
Yeah.
relative to the turning
To the turning
How about
movements of
how
the
about if we
video.
say demonstrate to the city engineer's satisfaction that the width is adequate for turning radiuses of semi-trucks?
Yeah, onto Wilson.
Onto Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Findings of fact, the establishment, maintenance, location, and operation of the use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public. The use is compatible with the intent of the zoning district and will not change the essential character of the surrounding area. The use will not be injurious to the use or enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes permitted, will not substantially diminish or impair property values within the area, and will not result in a significant adverse impact on the natural environment. The establishment, maintenance, location, and operation of the use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses permitted in that district. Adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary services or facilities have been provided such that the use will not place demands on public services or facilities in excess of capacity, and the use will, in all other respects, conform to the applicable regulations of the zoning district in which it is located, conditions imposed on approval, and all other applicable provisions of law, ordinance, or statute.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Would you want to, or maybe you've addressed it in what you've given, be explicit that there's no allowance for backing into or out of that property?
I would add a fifth condition, no backing into or out of the property onto Wilson Avenue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion? Is there support?
Support.
Okay, motion by Rob, supported by Elena to conditionally approve the project as described by Rob. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Did we want to allow people to speak in the back here, just in general, or?
They didn't.
If I may, Chair, I just want to speak briefly to the fact, there was originally, we noticed for a third case on the agenda today. It was pulled by the applicant over a week ago, so I've been reached out to by a few neighbors regarding that case, tried to let them all know and encourage them to share the word. So I'm very sorry that that didn't make it to you. That when that does return, we don't have a date yet. It will be re-noticed, and I'm very sorry. If you want, I can do my other end of meeting material right now.
Can I just do something real quick, Paula? So Scott's not here tonight, but he's not gonna be on the board anymore starting in January, so I just wanted to thank him for his service that he spent. He was almost on the commission for 7 years, and definitely appreciate all of his time and effort that he did for the whole commission as a whole from the city. And then thank you, Terry, again for joining us for another year on planning commission.
Thanks.
So I have two items for you. One is that this was going to be Scott Funky's final meeting, and I wanted to thank him for his time and service to the city. So thank you, Elena, for adding that as well. And then our next meeting is on January 7th, 2026. We have 3 items scheduled for that meeting. A tentative preliminary plat for a phase 2 of a development. An amendment to a PASP where a large shopping center is adding in 2 new outlots, and a final area site plan for an industrial business. So it will be a diverse assortment at our next meeting. And happy holidays and happy new year to you all.
I'm sorry I picked on you about the cows.
Motion to adjourn?
Support.
Motion by Jacob, supported by Pat to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Happy New Year.